How's it going, guys? Today I got my friend Heidi from C&G Consulting here to talk to us about business visas in the Philippines, the different options, and what you need to do to get one. Let's go.
Subscribe now.
So Heidi, great to have you back.
Happy to be back.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this. One of the things that a lot of people asked about is business visas in particular. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Can you tell us a bit more? If a foreigner wants to come over here and start a business, do they need a special type of visa?
I think if you're a foreigner and you want to come to the Philippines and start a business, it's definitely better for you to have a specific visa. I know a lot of people come here and they're just on tourists, which might put you in a lot of risk, right?
Sure.
So, because there are chances when the Department of Labor or Immigration might come check and that might put you in trouble. So if you're gonna come here and you're gonna start a business and you're gonna be going back and forth to the Philippines, I definitely suggest for you to get any type of visas, and I'll be discussing like the three major ones that I can think of in terms of the business visas that are available in the Philippines.
Okay, so nobody wants to get in trouble. So what are those type of visas that they would get if they had a business over here?
I can suggest three major ones. We'll talk about the 9G working visa, which is the most common visa that foreigners get here in the Philippines. We can talk about the special investors residence visa, and also the special visa for employment generation. So those are the three major ones that I would definitely suggest if you want to attach your visa to your business.
Okay. So can you tell us a bit about the three different types of business visas and what's the difference between them?
Okay, so let's start with the 9G working visa. The 9G working visa is basically called the pre-arranged employment visa. So we call it Section 9G. This visa is approved by three major government agencies. So it would have to go through the Department of Justice, Department of Labor, and then the Bureau of Immigration. Basically, with the 9G visa, you have to prove that no other Filipino can do the job that you're doing.
Right. So how difficult is that? Because surely there's Filipinos that could do anything.
Yeah, basically. So if you own the business, for us, we mostly try to specify what are the special qualifications of the expat that's applying. So it's very important for you to specify your special qualification. Like say, for example, if you are working for a French restaurant. So of course, it would be better if you have a French chef that's working for you, right? So qualifications like those that are very specific and that no other Filipino can do is very important when you're applying for this visa.
Sure.
Yeah. And years of experience, you have your diploma, certifications. Those have to be laid out in your resume, because when you're applying for the 9G working visa, the Department of Labor will definitely check like your entire resume, like, oh, actually a Filipino can do this. So why are you the one being hired for this?
Sure.
Yeah.
So if somebody owns their own business over here, why might they choose this type of visa?
Number one, it's easier to get. And then, there's no other requirement other than having like a business here in the Philippines that can actually employ a foreigner to work for them. With the other visas, like SIRV, there's actually a capital requirement. For SVEG, there is a minimum employee requirement. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for this one here, about how long would it normally take for someone to get?
So as I mentioned during the last video, for visas, any visa in the Philippines, normally it would take 3 to 4 months from submission. So that doesn't include the time you're preparing for all the documentation.
Sure.
So if you're working with an agency or if you want to do it yourself, I would definitely suggest you go to the government agency first, ask for all the requirements. Important is ask for how many copies they want, because chances are they've listed all the requirements, you submit it, and then they'll tell you, oh, you actually need 4 more copies of this paperwork. You know how it is in the Philippines, right?
No comment. But that's why I got you to help out with this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's great. So if you have this type of visa, can you come in and out of the Philippines as often as you want? How long can you keep it for?
Yeah, okay. So for the 9G visa, you can actually apply for 1, 2, or 3 years.
Okay.
You can have multiple entry and exits in the Philippines for as long as your visa is valid. And it has a specific time frame or validity, but you can actually renew your visa provided that your employment contract with the company you're working for is also renewed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
So that's one of the main types of business visas. What's another?
Another one is the Special Investors Residence Visa, or the SIRV. The difference between this and the 9G visa is the SIRV is granted by the Board of Investments.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Board of Investments and then immigration. One very important requirement for the Special Investors Visa is having a 75,000 USD capitalization or deposit that you will be giving to the Board of Investments. So the process is like this. You have 75,000 USD. You're gonna remit it to the Development Bank of the Philippines, which the Board of Investment has an account. And then from that investment, you can actually invest it in publicly listed companies in the Philippines, your own business, and then other industries that are or upcoming corporations that can actually take in that investment and create and put your name on the registration. Yeah.
So in a lot of other countries, even sometimes for retirement visas, I've seen where you have to take a big lump sum of money like that, and it just kind of sits somewhere magically. But in the Philippines, it's a little bit different, where you're actually investing it into something here, and that means you could get returns from your investment as well, right?
Yes, basically. So that's the good thing about the SIRV. The goal is to actually, of course, invest in the Philippines. But if, for example, you want to invest in publicly listed companies in the Philippines or corporations, that actually ensures that you're going to get something in return, right? And the best thing about the SIRV is it's actually an indefinite visa. So for as long as your investments are in the Philippines, that visa is still valid.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So are you able to invest into your own business with this?
Yeah, you can actually invest in your own business, provided that the business actually the business industry is actually within the investment priorities of the Philippines. So there are specific industry classifications. It's a long list, so I can't really tell you all of it. But if anyone wants to ask questions, they can always message me, There are specific industries that you can invest. Before, they would allow purchase of property, but right now they don't allow it anymore. They want to focus on basically purely investments. Either it's your own company or publicly listed companies in the Philippines.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I can imagine a lot of people are, watching this and their eyes are kind of bulging like, I just don't got 75,000 there. So I should ask you, with the 9G visa that you mentioned where you're, basically an employee in your own company, is there any big lump sum with that visa that people would have to pay?
No, there's actually no deposit for the 9G visa because you're basically an employee in your own company. So it wouldn't make sense for you to deposit a big lump sum for to work in your own company, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So say that somebody wants the type of visa, they have their $75,000, and they say, okay, I understand the Philippines wants me to invest in the Philippines stock market as an example, but I have no idea how the Philippines stock market works. How would that kind of thing be handled?
So normally what we do, because we're not really investment experts. So what I normally do is we connect the client with a broker, and that broker will help you pick out stocks in the Philippines that are best performing. So some people would invest in mutual funds, some people would invest in what are the best performing stocks right now. So you're basically given a list and also a background of the stocks you're investing in. So that's why it's very important to work with a broker, especially if you're new investing here in the Philippines. And the best part about it is you're not going to pay to have a consultation with the broker because the broker gets commission out of your investment.
I see.
So it's a win-win situation for both parties.
Sure.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
So what else should people be aware of with this type of visa?
Okay, so the SIRV is actually approved in two parts. So the first part is the SIRV probationary, which is valid for 6 months. The most frequently asked question for SIRV is always like, oh my God, I don't know where to invest. Do I need to know now before I apply? Actually, when you apply and you're sure that you have the 75,000 USD, you can actually, once the SIRV probationary is approved, you have about 6 months to figure out what are the investments that you want to do, whether to invest in your own company, other person's companies, or if you want to do investment in publicly listed companies here in the Philippines.
Okay.
So that's always the major concern. So if you want to do an SIRV, just don't freak out. You have 6 months to figure it out.
All right.
Yeah,
So
and then
you have 6 months, and then you can freak out.
yeah, and then you can freak out.
Okay, got it.
Basically. And so once the probationary is approved, then you apply for the SIRB permanent. That's when the Board of Investments will actually evaluate if your investments are valid. And once it's valid, then they will approve you for a permanent SIRB, which means for as long as your investments are here in the Philippines, then you have basically a residence here in the Philippines. And the visa is indefinite for as long as the investments are here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know from personal experience that's not the only two type of visas. What would be a third option?
A third option would be if you're planning on starting a company here and you're planning to hire a lot of people, it would be the special visa for employment generation, or SVEG. So the SVEG is approved by two government agencies, the Department of Labor and then the Bureau of Immigration. So this visa requires you, you're basically coming here to the Philippines to recruit at least 10 Filipinos.
Full-time?
Full-time employees, yes. It cannot be contractual, it cannot be part-time. They have to be regular full-time employees for you to have this visa. It doesn't really matter if you have them already, but if you plan on hiring more, then that's also a possibility to get this visa. The great thing about this is there is no capital requirement. So if you want to come here,
I like this one.
I like this one, yeah. So if you want to come here to the Philippines and you already have a business registration, and then you don't want to invest a big lump sum of money, just to be safe, because of course you're coming to the Philippines, you're still testing the waters. You don't want to, you'd rather spend that money investing in your own company, right? Rather than putting it in a bank somewhere or investing it in something that doesn't really benefit your own business. I think this one would be great if, for example, you're in an industry which actually requires a lot of manpower.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one is very ideal.
Very good.
Yeah.
So with this one, time frame similar to the others? How does this work?
Yes, it's similar to the others, 3 to 4 months always with from submission. So people always say, oh, 3 to 4 months from the moment we sign up with you, or that doesn't work that way. 3 to 4 months from the moment you submit to immigration.
Sure.
Yeah, because you need all your documentation. So this is a time frame that agencies or people like me don't decide. This is a time frame from immigration.
I understand.
Yeah.
So how much paperwork is there involved with these type of visas? The Philippines does love paperwork.
We love our paperwork. I don't know if we have saved trees everywhere, but we love our paperwork.
I don't see almost any trees in Cebu City, and I think I found out why.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's all going to the government agencies. Funny story, I actually went to I'm not gonna mention which government agency, but they're just open and it's not they don't have dividers yet, so you can see all the paperwork.
Right.
I went into their office and the entire side there's no cabinet, but there's like a stack of papers from like ones that are almost decaying. It's just
I can imagine
know.
a lot of work.
Yeah, we're in 2023, but the Philippines is still we're still pushing a lot of paper here.
That's right. The
Yeah.
paper industry is still alive. So that's the interesting thing. When I moved here, I saw how many of my favorite U.S. businesses like Toys R Us or Shakey's Pizza, these companies have died in the U.S., but they're alive and well in countries like the Philippines, which was nice.
Yeah.
The paperwork side of it, not quite so nice,
Yeah.
but if somebody's getting your help, then you would be the one that's going to help out.
Yes. So we always make sure that it's always the thing with government agencies here. They have a list of requirements online or on their, you ask for requirements in the agency. But what always happens is after you submit the documents, they always say, oh, actually, you need more. You need this one stamped.
Sure.
So what we try to make sure is like mastery of all the requirements, from how many copies are needed to what documents need to be authenticated, because sometimes it's not specified. That's always the problem. If people sign up with us, we have a checklist of everything that you need, and we make sure that we have everything ready upon submission, and so that you don't waste your time going back and forth to government agencies.
Sure.
Yeah, because that's always the stress, because things here are tedious,
They are indeed. So apart from the tediousness, I can imagine some people are thinking, should I just do this on my own or should I use a company like Heidi's? I know you're biased, but what would you say are some of the advantages of going with a company like yours versus doing it yourself?
Basically, as an expat here in Philippines, of course you can do it on your own. Of course you can do research. But what agencies actually offer is convenience. So you will see when you line up at government agencies here, because everything is still so manual, that you will be spending hours lining up, and especially if you're applying for a visa that deals with like 3 government agencies, like the 9G visa, or 2 like the SVEG and SIRV. So you're not just dealing with one government agency where you go and everything is there. It's not a one-stop shop. And these government agencies will be far from each other. So the great thing about hiring professionals is actually the convenience of it all. And number 2, saving your time. Like, time is a valuable resource that no money can ever pay, right?
You're thinking like a foreigner now. I like it. You've heard this a lot of times, I think.
Yeah, which actually makes sense, right? It's something that no amount of money can pay for. So rather than wasting your time lining up at government agencies, which by the way are sometimes extremely hot and there's like a huge queuing, you'd rather have someone line up for you, prepare all the documentations for you, and rather than spending time doing something that doesn't really benefit you or make you money, you'd rather use that time to focus on your business, because that's why you're here. Right? That's why we're having this conversation.
Honestly, I would rather do anything than sit at a government office, take a nap. It really is a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of stress. When I came here, we went through the process of signing up for a one-person corporation by ourselves and had to run around multiple government organizations and everything else. And I was fortunate that I got some help on that, so I didn't have to do all of it. But even what little I did was just crazy. So, you know, I kind of vowed never again with anything like this. It's just so much easier to have someone help you out with this kinds of stuff. So for people watching this, video, anything else that they should be aware of when it comes to visas in the Philippines?
Just
specifically business visas.
Just have all your documentations ready. Normally for us, it would give you a list of documentations. Normally what causes delay is always like not having these documentations. So having things apostilled in for example, if you're getting an SIRV, you would need a police clearance from your country of origin. Just have this ready so that when you go to any agency, that cuts the time from processing the visas, right? Because if you have to request for them, that may delay your process. And make sure you're giving your agent the right information, because because sometimes it gets very confusing when we're not given the right information, and now we have to go back and forth. Because the thing with government agencies is they're very tedious, but they're also very specific. Like if some things are not right, like for example, one weird fact here in the Philippines is that middle name for us is our mom's maiden name, right? Right. But middle name in the West is like your second name. So when you're applying for a visa here, you actually have to do your first and middle name as your first name, because that for us counts as your first name. And your second name is not your middle name. So things like that. We actually had one delay because we got an NBI clearance, which is a requirement for most of the visas. And then he wrote his second name as his middle name, so he had to start all the process again from the very beginning. So it's like small things like that your agent is going to be aware of. So NBI clearances for foreigners here actually take 2 weeks before they are released, or 1 week in Manila. So imagine doing that and making that one mistake because you didn't know, and having to wait another 2 weeks to request for a new one. So it's small things like that when you hire an agent, you actually save time, because we will be able to assess what's missing, what information is inconsistent, and we'll be able to advise you so that you don't waste your time going back and forth to the government agency.
I could say firsthand that definitely saves a lot of pain. For sure. Well, Heidi, it's been great having you here talking about business visas. I'll definitely put your company information in the link below in case anybody has any questions or wants to get your help with a business visa themselves. And guys, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Make sure and reach out to Heidi and her company if you have any needs or any questions with these type of things. And as always, thank you for taking the time to watch. Take care.
Bye. Thanks for having me. And thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, consultation is free, so feel free to reach out to us anytime.